The Road Through the Fog Part 1. The embrace of obscurity. The fog had not merely settled. It had descended like a judgment, an absolute and suffocating takeover of the landscape. It was not the thin ethereal mist that dances at dawn and promises a quick reveal of the sun. This was a physical presence, dense and uniform, the color of wet cement, swallowing light and sound with equal, indifferent hunger. Elias knew the road intimately, or so he thought. He had walked this same stretch of the old King's Way countless times, tracing the uneven curve from the high moor to the lower valley town. Yet, under the dominion of this profound obscurity, every familiar rut and stone had become a source of treacherous uncertainty. His boots, once firmly planted with the confidence of habit, now tested the ground tentatively, each step a small question mark pressed into the unseen earth. The air, heavy with condensed moisture, clung to his clothes and hair, seeping into his skin like a chilling premonition. He could not see his own hands held out before him, a disconcerting reality that stripped away the most fundamental human assurance, the capacity to confirm one's own immediate existence through sight. The world had been reduced to a narrow, claustrophobic sphere of sensation. The slick coldness of the wooden staff in his grip, the muted shuss of his trousers rubbing together, and the relentless echoing silence that followed the cessation of his own movement. Elias had set out that morning driven by an urgent purpose, a deadline concerning the harvest contracts in the valley. But the fog cared nothing for deadlines. It was an entity of pure present, demanding his undivided, panicked attention. He had walked perhaps a quarter of the way, yet he felt as if he had crossed a great psychological distance. Every sensory marker, the silhouette of the old oak, the sudden dip where the stream crossed the road, the familiar smell of pine needles that marked the forest edge, all were erased, leaving behind a blank, terrifying canvas. It was this loss of sensory anchor that began to erode his internal map. Was I walking straight? Had I veered left toward the treacherous drop? The human mind, reliant on triangulation and horizon lines, struggled to maintain a sense of direction when all external references were removed. Elias stopped, leaning heavily on his staff. The silence rushed in, thick and judgmental. He felt a desperate urge to shout, to pierce the oppressive quiet, but he knew the sound would only travel a few feet before being swallowed, giving him no reliable echo to place himself. Shouting would only confirm his isolation. He closed his eyes. Ironically, shutting off the useless sense of sight seemed to clarify the others. He concentrated on the subtle slope beneath his feet, the faint whisper of wind that suggested the direction of the pass, the slightly drier air that might indicate the clearing. His journey had ceased to be about reaching a destination. It had become an exercise in radical faith, faith in the muscle memory of his legs, faith in the unseen path that he hoped still existed directly beneath him. Part 2. The whispers of doubt. The deeper Elias moved into the white void, the more the silence began to fracture, filled not with external noise, but with the amplified, merciless criticisms of his own mind. Why did you rush? You should have waited. The fog was not just an environmental condition. It was a mirror reflecting his deepest anxieties. He began to doubt the very existence of the road. Had he, in his blind confidence, strayed onto the open moor? Was the faint resistance under his boots merely heather and rock, leading him into the swampy, unforgiving lowlands? He crouched down, running his fingers over the ground. He searched for the distinct texture of gravel, the packed clay of the well-traveled lane, the familiar indentation left by wagon wheels. For a long, heart-stopping moment, he felt nothing but damp, uneven soil. Panic, cold and sharp, threatened to paralyze him. This was how people vanished, a few degrees off course in a whiteout, and the world simply absorbed them. Then, his fingers brushed against something hard and unnaturally smooth, a small rounded river stone embedded firmly in the soil. It was the material used to pave the stretch of the road centuries ago. A small, insignificant thing, yet it felt like a monumental signpost, a shouted affirmation of the path's presence. He was still on the road. The relief was intoxicating, a sudden surge of warmth against the chill. But the relief was fleeting. Being on the road was one thing, knowing where it led was another. The fog had distorted time as much as space. Minutes felt like hours, and the physical effort of moving with such concentrated caution was exhausting. He recalled the stories, travelers who walked in circles for hours, convinced they were making headway, only to end up back at their starting point, victims of the fog's disorientation and the mind's desperate need to impose order. To combat the spiral of doubt, Elias began to talk to himself, his voice a low, husky monologue in the stillness. He recited the landmarks he should be passing, the 3 sharp turns near the ravine, the gentle rise leading to the shepherd's spring, the long flat stretch before the final descent. He used these internal memories as his new points of reference, matching his physical effort against the mental timeline. 3 bends now, he muttered, counting his steps, trying to correlate the number with the expected distance. His foot caught on something. He stumbled, catching himself with his staff, his heart hammering. It was a large, protruding rock, one he knew existed on the inside of the second bend. He had almost missed it. He was not only on the road, but he was correctly estimating his progress. The small victory was a lifeline. Part 3. The clarity of purpose. As he continued, the journey evolved from a frantic battle against the unknown to a focused meditation on self-reliance. The fog had taken away his world, but in doing so, it had forced him to look inward for his resources. The usual distractions, the hawk circling overhead, the beauty of the distant peaks, the thoughts of his destination were gone. There was only the moment, the movement, and the purpose. He realized that the true danger of the fog was not the physical hazard, but the psychological surrender it encouraged. It whispered, "Stop. Rest. Wait for it to clear." But waiting meant freezing, both literally and figuratively. He understood then that the road through the fog was a metaphor, a test of persistent will. He started walking with a stronger, steadier rhythm. He didn't rush, but he didn't hesitate either. His focus was no longer on seeing the road, but on trusting that the road, having existed for centuries, would remain true to its course, regardless of the temporary visual occlusion. The change in his pace and his attitude seemed to create a subtle shift in his environment. Or perhaps it was merely his heightened sensitivity. He detected a change in the air's scent, a hint of sulfur and coal smoke, unmistakable signifiers of the valley town. He heard it too, a faint, almost imperceptible thump-thump that, through the thick silence, could only be the distant sounds of the mill. A flicker of movement caught his peripheral vision. He paused, holding his breath, heart surging with hope. It was a single dim orange glow, a diffuse stain in the uniform gray, no brighter than a distant match head. It was a light, a window, a lantern, a beacon. He fixed his gaze on the faint luminescence, abandoning his measured steps. He walked toward it, no longer searching for the road's texture, but allowing the promise of the light to draw him. The fog remained thick, but the light gave him a vector, a direction. He walked for what felt like 10 more minutes, the orange stain slowly resolving itself into the blurred shape of a window, and then into the distinct outline of a small, rough-hewn shed, the old toll collector's cabin, just before the road began its steep final descent. He had made it. He had passed all the markers, navigated the terrain, and overcome the profound psychological challenge of moving through absolute obscurity. He reached out and touched the cold, wet wood of the cabin door, the solid feel of it grounding him back into reality. He stood there for a moment, not immediately opening the door, but simply breathing the air that now carried the unmistakable smells of wood smoke and human habitation. He was still enveloped by the fog, but now he was at the destination, the challenge met and surmounted. The road through the fog had not been a road of physical hardship, but a passage of the mind. It demanded that he let go of the need for external certainty and rely solely on the inner compass, the stubborn, quiet will to move forward, one faithful step after the next, until the faint light of purpose finally resolved into the clear contours of the world. The road through the fog. The air is thick, a heavy velvet gray, the moisture clings to every single thing. I cannot see the distance of the day, only the breath the silent moments bring. Each step I take is measured and defined, a quiet faith where certainty is weak. The path ahead is hidden from the mind, I move by touch, the secrets that it speaks. No sun to guide, no distant, shining hill, just muffled sound and contours soft and low. The world is waiting, utterly still, a phantom landscape where the lost things grow. Yet in the heart, a steady compass spins, a stubborn will that pushes through the white. The true beginning where the journey wins, is simply walking onward in the light. The light that breaks, though distant and delayed, will find the traveler who moves ahead. The fog is just a challenge to be made, a temporary color softly spread.